No, I don't know how to hold it.
Yeah.
Different guy.
We're gonna go ahead and get started. My name is Sherry Grogan and I'm the president of Rural Leavenworth, Inc. And I'm gonna turn the introduction of our guest speaker over to Ann Brockhoff, who is our secretary. We are going to do our guest speaker first, and then we'll leave about 15 minutes or 10 minutes at the end. This will be a 1 hour program or 1 hour allotment of time. And then we'll just conduct our business that we have, which is really just a couple things, so it won't take long. And we should be able to get out of here before any storm hits.
Well, thank you, Sherry, and glad to see everybody come out tonight. I wanted to introduce Dylan Ritter, who's the Assistant Fire Chief for Leavenworth County Fire District number 2, which was formed or actually came together officially starting January 1st. It was previously the Reno and Sherman Township Fire Departments. But Dylan said that he has spent, he started and did 3 years with Northwest Consolidated Fire Department as a volunteer in DeSoto, and then he moved to Linwood in 2016 and joined the Sherman Township Fire Department. And in 2019, he also joined the Reno Township Fire Department and began working on the consolidation effort. And so I'm sure he's got a lot of really interesting stuff to share with us. So I will turn it over to Dylan.
Well, I appreciate y'all inviting me here to talk on this. This is pretty cool. There's not a whole lot of attempt to gain information across the county from how their emergency services work and in general, which is going to become increasingly much more needed with all the growth. Us particular in the south end of the county, I think there's like 400 homes that are expected to be built in the next year or two. So that was kind of the primary catalyst for us trying to make a fire district. We saw the growth, obviously the economic growth from the Hills plant here in Tongi, and then the Panasonic plant in DeSoto. We cover a large piece of 2440 and I-70 and all of K32 highway through Leavenworth County. So the people commuting back and forth, we thought that the increase in that was going to be pretty substantial in all the homes, and probably some people trying to get out of DeSoto to come over here. So like she said, I started in Northwest Consolidated my 18th birthday in 2013, and so I'm originally from Johnson County, so I've seen some of the bad side to growth and how it affects rural areas and the burden it puts on emergency services and the citizens in general. So then I moved here in 2016 and quickly got onto Sherman Township, which at the time was already starting to see the effects of some of that growth. And the tornado came through in 2019, and after which I joined Reno Township as well. And that kind of started as the catalyst to us running together and running a lot of calls together, and it changed our aid packages with how we help each other. So for about the next 4 years, we tried to make a fire district, which is a difficult task. There was some legislature that had changed in the process of us trying to do that. Back, in the early 2000s through the 10s, you would have to go to the Senate. The Senate would have to create a bill, and that's how you get your fire district. You would kind of get jumped in with that, and that's how Northwest Consolidated was formed. It's kind of a similar thing to how District 1 in Lansing was formed. And so since then, we went a different path. We kind of followed what Douglas County had done. They had put about 7 departments together and created Douglas County Fire District number 1. And they were able to kind of go through their county commission, and they had to do some crazier stuff than we had to, but we kind of use that as a template. We had a number of turnover with different board members and some turnover in our department at the upper levels. So that cost us some time, but in the end, we just got to a point where we realized the growth was going faster than we were able to keep up with it. And we didn't want to get behind to a point where we had to burden our taxpayers, like this to try to make up. we wanted to be in front of all the growth. So, and then it was becoming really hard to find volunteers and find volunteers that wanted to show up and be a part of it. And, Reno had gone all the way down to about 4 people that were active. Sherman was down to about 9 that were active. As we were coming into getting that district done. So, we thought it was best to just try to put them together. So we could provide a better service. We would lessen the burden on the citizens. We've been able to purchase a lot of equipment, which I can share with you that's in this handout, without really having to raise our taxes very much. And we don't anticipate having to raise our taxes very much in the future for a long period of time, until we have to talk about having more staffing. But it's been a benefit. We have 3 stations. We're in the process of trying to find some land on 2440 to build a 4th. We have 17 trucks. We just purchased a ladder truck from the city of Bonner Springs. And it'll be here this week. We've got a 2,000-gallon tanker coming from Texas, and then 2 brand new fire trucks that are coming from Alexis, Iowa, or Illinois, that are coming to. Again, we were able to do all that. Reno had elected to hire a full-timer at the end of 2021 or 2022. So in 2023, I started as a full-time 8 to 5 assistant chief at Reno Township, and was kind of on an island by myself for a lot of that. But it was it showed that there was a need there. The days of fire departments having people that own businesses in their townships or have the ability to leave work at a moment's notice and come respond to calls or farmers, it's just not there anymore. So we felt that there was going to be a need for having daytime help. So they did that. I rolled into the district. We also have a residency program that we have young kids that come and live at our fire station for a 2-year contract. And then we assist them with trying to get certified or trying to get a fire science degree so that they can go to full-time departments or choose to stay with us as we move that way. And so they put 36 hours of shift time in a week, and they live at the fire station, and it reduces our need to have a lot of full-time staffing, which again goes back to not burdening the taxpayer. I know that Mike has been to a lot of our meetings and seen a lot of the difficulties of trying to put it together. And so that's kind of been the thought process the whole time, is we wanted to make a significant jump in the service that we provide, but we didn't want to burden the taxpayers by having to do it. So we feel that we've succeeded in that for right now. And we are in our infancy. We've only been around for 5 months now, so we're trying to figure that out. It's a lot. There was a lot of unforeseen things that we didn't know were going to be there. But I would say that overall the process has been really good. And for those that live in areas up north or in the county that aren't in cities and stuff, the fire district, that might be the model moving forward. That might be the best way to provide a service. I don't think that one county fire department is the right move, but if you're struggling for funding and you're struggling with volunteers, you get to a point where you don't have a choice and you kind of have to start putting things together. So that's ultimately where we were. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy to answer any of your questions. There's a lot on the stuff we did with the district. There's some other stuff that we deal with on a regular basis that as far as medical transports and some stuff that some hurdles that we're still trying to figure out with the rest of the county and providing a really quality service to everybody. So the district was just the first step in that. We have aspirations to continue to move forward and maybe even have our own ambulance service one day. So there's a lot of stuff that we would like to do. We're more than happy to help anybody that wants to look into becoming a fire district. It really, at the end of it, it wasn't too bad. It was just pretty difficult trying to figure out all the different rules. And we got some assistance from our county commissioners at the end to help us push it through. And it hindsight, looking back, it wasn't as bad as it could have been, and we definitely think that we were thorough enough through the process. You know, I see the stuff in Lansing and District 1, some of the troubles they're going through, that was, a lot of it had to do with the paperwork side. It just wasn't correct. And, we didn't want to have to, ever have that scenario, and we don't ever intend to do it. So we have a 25-year agreement contract between Reno and Sherman that runs. And then unless somebody says they want to stop after 25 years, it goes again. So we don't have any intentions of ever separating again. This is what we are and who we are, moving forward. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I think the interaction between the citizens and the fire departments, is good. It brings a lot of conversations. We're able to answer a lot of you guys' questions. I think, you know, like, I see Mike, because I see Mike a lot lately, but, I think it was an educational process for you to sit around and watch that, and he brought us a lot of good questions that helped us, you know, keep our thought process in line. Yes, sir.
Got another question perhaps, is if you take a look at the county government webpage, there's no mention of rural fire departments, there's no mention of any of the townships at all. I mean, you're a full timer. Have you ever thought about talking to Chuck McGaha and seeing if they can't get something that references the rural fire departments as well as the townships on the county homepage, on the county's page?
Yeah, so I think, fundamentally, I think that, the county, when it comes to emergency services, holistically is behind. And I can say that coming from Johnson County, they tax a lot and they do some crazy stuff, but their emergency services are second to none. It's the best in the state.
They tax less.
Well, maybe, but you know, after 9/11, Johnson County went right in and they tried to get a bunch of FEMA grants. They built a really nice dispatch center, F5 rated. They put all new radios in all their fire trucks. You know, their county government, you know, was all in on supporting the emergency services. And sometimes in this county, it doesn't necessarily feel like the support is always there, on all the levels to really make this thing better. And, you know, 20 years ago, all the departments in this county were running a lot less calls. There was a lot less population. They weren't as busy. And so you could have strictly 100% volunteer departments and you could get away with a lot more than you can now. But every department in this county is running more calls now. We're servicing more citizens. It's costing them more to do business because of inflation. And so they need that support. We all need the support from all the citizens in the county government as well. And it's just behind, and it could definitely be better. And it could be better without even spending any money. It could be better with just being on the same page a little bit more on a lot of things.
So is all the personnel now in District 2, Fire District 2, I guess, are they paid personnel or do you still have some volunteer firefighters?
So I am the only full-time person right now. We hope to be able to hire more as the years go on. We have 14 part-time firefighter EMTs. So we started doing some part-time stuff this year. So 2 or 3 days a week are, it's me plus one part-timer plus the resident. So there's 3 of us on at any given point. And then we still have 28 volunteer firefighters. So, and during the process of making the district, and now we're seeing the benefits of being a bigger department, we've had a lot more interest in people wanting to come volunteer for us. And we will always be a volunteer fire department first. That will always be our focus. There's just, as I said, we got to a point where we had to make choices to have some guaranteed staffing because we were getting too busy. We're lucky enough to say that we haven't missed a call in over 3 years. And so we're proud of that fact. Our response times are down below 11 minutes for all of our 92 square miles. And we trained our people up a lot. We have paramedics that are on our department. We have a number of EMTs and EMRs for medical care. So I guess back to your point with the county, like we're us as an entity, as a district, we're doing everything we can to make improvements. But there comes a point when we need support. There's stuff that we can't change on our own. We have to do with other departments, or we have to do as a county on a whole. So, that's some of that stuff. And I think that, we're very lucky. There's a lot of departments in the county that don't have as many volunteers. They don't have as much money. They don't have, the resources we have. We kind of were one of them until we became, we put the two together. And so we're very fortunate. There's a lot of departments that are really struggling in this county, and it's not their fault. You know, it's got nothing to do with them. They have good leadership. They have good people. They just need community input, and they need support from the county, and they need more volunteers. So, and we want to help those departments. We strive to try to help as many departments as we can. We've donated gear to other departments in the county, and we want to be part of the solution. We don't want to be part of the problem ever.
How many calls do you get weekly or daily?
So we average about 40 calls a month. So it's a little sporadic. In grass fire season, we ran 94 calls in a week. So that's kind of an anomaly, but we average right around 500 calls a year. We've seen that number steadily increase year after year, and expect it to continue to do that. But it's about 40 calls a month, give or take. So 10 calls a week. You know, one and a half a day is what the number breaks out to, but you can't have half calls. So.
Yeah. How many are at County Road 1 and 32?
I've been on a lot of incidents at that intersection, and I've even done some research as far as the attempts that have been made to put a traffic light there.
Yeah.
And I've talked to some state people, and I wasn't really, one of the answers I got was not very good at all. And I wanted to say it to you. So, I just, again, that goes back to the county. You know, the county has a bigger voice than I do. The county has a bigger voice than the citizens do when it comes to some of that stuff. And, yeah, I've unfortunately run a lot of wrecks there, 158th and 32. Some of the worst wrecks I've ever seen, and it's kind of avoidable.
Well,
you know,
that, I live right there, so I'm pretty familiar with all the wrecks before they improved it. Well, since they've improved it, there's just as many wrecks.
I have not gone there any less.
Yeah, and, it could be fixed if the county would put up some flashing lights going north and south. I think that would help a lot, but what they did wouldn't help anything.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. So we cover county line to county line. It's a massive area, and there's a number of bad intersections in our area. Every area has them. But County 1 and 32 seems to be a pretty well-known one. I think a lot of people have seen bad stuff there or know of bad things that have happened there. So I don't know that their improvement did much,
No.
but there's a ton of construction going on in our area. And there really wasn't any notification on stuff like that either. So they've got 6th and I-70 shut down. They've got Stranger Creek Bridge down to 1 lane. They're taking 2 of our bridges out on Golden Road. The construction in Basers delayed the ambulance response. So that wasn't coordinated. You know, that definitely could have been coordinated. You know, and the county could have said, hey, we're gonna be doing all this construction. Is that gonna bother you guys? You know, should we stagger this or?
Yeah.
I found out about one of the constructions the day of. I had to go ask the guy working on it. So, that's been a problem. And I know of one person that actually put flashing lights on County 1 and 202nd. I think they got taken down by the state. So, I said the answer I got was not very well, so, or not very good. So I hope they make a change.
Yeah, well, when the wrecks happened, it was kind of midway between Linwood and Reno Township. I mean, you guys come in from both directions. I've seen a lot of man hours spent right there by you guys.
Yeah, I've done, I I've spent 5-6 hours doing traffic there before.
Yeah. Well, I used to run down there and direct traffic before y'all got there because, I was close.
Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Chief, have a question for you. You talked to, I mean, some, but can you give us like a profile of those 40 calls? How many are fire? How many are like EMS, traffic accident? And then two-part question. Some, what, dumb citizen things could we avoid to reduce your workload?
Well, your first part, about 60% of our call volume is EMS and 40% is fire, what we would call fire calls. Not necessarily that something's on fire, but it's not requiring EMS. The national averages are like 90% EMS, 10% fire. So we, like a lot of the other rural fire departments in the county, we fight a lot of fire, relatively. So, but we do run a tremendous amount of EMS calls, and part of that, in 2011, Reno and Sherman came together and created the Southern Leavenworth County Fire Medical Program, which then is rolled into the fire district. So, we do not fall under Leavenworth County EMS's protocols. We have our own doctor, so it allows us to kind of do some more things. We can call for mutual aid ambulances a little bit easier to get quicker care to the people that we respond to. And it also allows our medically certified people to do a little bit more. Let's just say we have some paramedics. So like we have heart monitors, and those paramedics can do some pretty great field care. And then we're starting the transition to a different doctor where we would have the option of having a field doctor come out under our protocols and be a doctor in the field for our calls on some of them. So
And when you say we, is it the county or we, the fire?
that's just our
District.
district too.
Okay.
And that field doctor, would you be a volunteer there?
Field doctor would technically be on our roster. The individual would be an employee of a hospital. That's kind of under our arrangement. Yeah. So, again, that goes back to trying to improve things from a public causing a burden on us aspect. The public is never a burden on us. We are more than happy to do anything we can at any point. If you can't get your trash out, we'll come put your trash out for you. If you need help in general, we'll come help you change the light bulb, change the smoke detector, anything we can do to help. We want to run calls. We want to do as much as we can for the community. That being said, yeah, I mean, I see some people do some dumb things.
It's like preventable.
And that's probably unavoidable, but I'd say the biggest thing is typically in grass fire season, people not getting burn permits, people not checking the weather or being cognizant of how the winds change and stuff, or how dry it is outside. That's probably the high point of the year where we go on a lot of calls that were kind of avoidable. But again, that's part of it, so it's no problem.
On your med calls, about what percentage would you say are traffic accident versus non-traffic accident?
I'd say probably about half of those are traffic accidents, just because, like I said, we cover all 32. We respond to 15 miles of I-70. It's not all ours. We auto aid to other departments. 8 of it is in our area. And then 2440 from Douglas County up to right here at Honey Creek, pretty much. So we run a tremendous amount of wrecks, and all of them are pretty much high-speed wrecks. So we spend a lot of our EMS time on that, but Southern Leavenworth County is a little bit more on the average age is up a little bit in our piece of area, so we run a lot of medical calls to senior citizens and stuff. And this,
If we go back to fire for a second, because a lot of the new subdivisions that are going in are requiring meters for fire hydrants. Oh, is that, this may be, well, you're maybe looking at it is, I'm sorry, but is that putting any kind of pressure on your fire district or any fire districts that you know of in terms of putting that extra pressure on the rural water district?
so water districts are kind of their own thing. and is what I've come to know. Some water districts are very supportive of fire suppression activities and they're very helpful. Other ones, I've heard of one in the county that turned their fire hydrants off to their fire department and told them they couldn't use them. So that puts a ton of pressure on the fire department. But I think with all the growth, going back to the county being behind, that's one aspect. There's just not enough water. There's probably 80% of our area is not hydranted well to the point that it needs to be. There's not enough hydrants. And in some of the areas where there are hydrants, they don't have enough water going to them, so they're not even worth trying to mess with. So from a fire suppression point of view, that's why we have to spend money on 2,000-gallon tankers, and the purpose is just to move water, because we have to move water to the call and create a mobile hydrant. That's one piece where it causes pressure on us. The other piece is that even when we are able to use those hydrants, they're not putting out the water they need to. So I think with all the homes being built, and I see a lot of the planning and zoning requests, they come through our agency for the fire piece of it, and I see some of the costs for water districts incur on citizens to make improvements, and some of the things that they ask, and some of the things that they sign off on, when it comes to being able to supply enough water for a 50-house subdivision, that is a little concerning. Could be better. Could be better.
Can I ask, I know strangers here too. Can we get stranger to answer that particular question as well for,
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So it's been my experience, I typically don't deal with the planning, I see the documents, but our chief is the one that responds to them. And I can tell you that emergency management inevitably will always ask for fire hydrants. Recommendation fire hydrants. And then when it goes through planning and zoning, or however it works, I'm not sure the mechanism, all that goes, there's no hydrants so we requested them, but I know that Mark puts in there about hydrants. I know that Chuck at emergency management puts in about hydrants. I know Stackhouse and everybody, all the other fire chiefs, from what I see, put in requirements for fire hydrants, but it falls on deaf ears.
Yeah, so
It's been my experience.
to his point, something there, it gets lost somewhere. Like
Okay.
the word fire hydrant falls out of the whole.
I just wanted to make sure, just see if this is uniquely yours, or as I know, Rural Fire District 6 has a new subdivision going in just west of, Tonganoxie that puts a 20% increase on stress on the water district to the fire hydrants.
Well, I can tell you the water district that he's talking about, I was at the hydrant the next day, I think it was on rekindle, and it was clean black, and he was holding up to use.
The county does not require, new subdivisions to put in fire lines. Or anybody to have fire, have a high enough pressure that whatever is the 200 and some PSI for a fire line, they don't require that. It would put so much, stress on the whole system that it just couldn't sustain itself.
Yeah, so I think
We're
that,
too old, but just, then they're too discombobulated.
yeah, so there's, and I'm by no means saying that the water districts need to fork over a ton of money. I think every firefighter in the county would love to have a hydrant every 300 feet, but we don't have an illusion that can happen. We understand why it can't. But the infrastructure in the county across the board in these areas is probably lacking. They would require a tremendous amount of money to make those improvements to provide those fire hydrants. And a lot of the districts, the water districts that I deal with, we have 3 of them in our area. They're usually pretty good about new development. They'll point out that they're going to put a couple in there. It's usually, like I said, not what we would want, but we understand the financials behind that. But it's getting to a point though, as you start to see more of these subdivisions getting built across the area, and they keep getting approved, but that piece is lacking.
Yeah.
And whether it's
Definitely disconnect between the rural water district engineers that are, putting the water line, hydrology information together and county emergency management that's asking for these things to happen, they're not on the same page.
So again, I think that we would, in a perfect world, emergency management and the water districts and the fire departments would work hand in hand to figure out what the best solution for those areas are. That doesn't always happen. And that's not necessarily anybody's fault. It's just a matter of, even sometimes we'll get a hydrant, but there's like a 2-inch line going to a hydrant that's supposed to feed, 60 houses, and that math doesn't math. So, that's, again, it puts, if we're not gonna have hydrants, then fire departments have to buy these $4, $5, $6, $7, $800,000 trucks that haul water, to try to be able to fight the fires when they occur, but also reduce the ISO ratings so that citizens have to pay less for insurance. And so it's a snowball that keeps rolling through, and nobody's really winning out of the deal. So,
I'm sorry, how many trucks did you say you guys need?
we're gonna have 17 by the end of the year. It's a lot. I'll admit that in the process of trying to help form the district, I forgot to count. So, we got to be in fire district and I started counting and I realized we had a lot more trucks than I thought we were gonna have. So,
Just the 2 stations?
we have 3 stations.
Three.
Yeah, so we have one that's at 170th and Crider. And then we have, our main station is in Linwood, it's 100 Main Street. And then we have a third station at 12755 238th Street, which was the Reno Fire Station. So, and again, we're trying to build a 4th station up in the area of like Stillwell and Chieftain. Because we're gonna be going through an ISO rating process in the next couple of months here. And we believe that we've done a good enough job that our ISO rating could be in the high 2s or the low 3s, except we have a 10 rated area. And that's Stillwell Chieftain D-Hop Road that we can't fix without building a fire station and putting a truck up there. So
Lower number is better.
lower number is the better, yeah. Yeah, the lower the number, the better. So, you'll see a lot of departments that are proud about being an ISO level 1. That takes a tremendous amount of effort. And you have to have assistance from having fire hydrants or having enough funding to get to that level. If we got to a 3, we'd be pretty tickled. That would be pretty great. That's part of the reason for buying the ladder. That gains us pretty much a whole point. Having a reserve engine gains us a lot of point. Having staffing gains those points, and then that goes directly back to the customer, the taxpayer, where their home insurance, their fire insurance is less because of that. Now, not all insurance agencies use ISO, but most of them do. So it's not a win for everybody, but it's one of the things that we can do to try to show that the money we use from taxes does benefit that customer right back.
What's the level of cooperation between amongst districts? Like, would you guys call Tongi or something, or?
So there's a county mutual aid association, and that all those departments agreed that they're gonna mutual aid each other. They're gonna help when help is asked for. The state has a policy that says if a department asks for help and you can give them help, you have to give them help. So that's the black and white answer of, that's no personalities or people that got their sandboxes. We're all gonna help each other, right? So, personally, I think the county as a whole is in a pretty unique situation where there's been a lot of turnover. There's some changing of the guard at a lot of departments. So, you see some of those, differences in tactics and ideas and how things should be from an older generation to a newer generation and kind of in the middle. Fire departments fight with each other. It's just like anything else. Sometimes it's like Pepsi don't like Coke. Most of the time, everybody gets along pretty well. And generally speaking, if there are issues, they're not issues of dislike or any of that. It's just, wishing things could have went differently or would have went better. I think that the county chiefs are starting to turn the corner in a direction to try to be more proactive and be better with trainings and helping each other. But there's some limitations, right? So we get, my opinion, this is a little bit of a hot take. The fire departments could do everything right, but if the information that we're given is not correct, then we can't change anything about that. So, and we get, that's not necessarily the specific dispatcher that dispatches us. It's so much the system and how things work. So, The dispatch center is under the sheriff. They just bought a new CAD system, which is the computer program that dispatches us. It looks like it's an improvement, but there's been some hiccups along the way. And, so that's caused its own set of problems. There's a number of things that happen in a fire department or how a fire department operates that the public has no idea about. And that's why I was happy to come talk here, because I think it's beneficial to you all to understand, whether you get involved or not, why certain things are the way they are, or why something has to happen a certain way. I know that, I don't normally get on Facebook, but I saw a post from Stranger Township about them asking for a mill increase for a truck and some expansion in their station, which, and if they handed out a mailer beforehand, which I thought was incredibly transparent, because they do not have to do that. They chose to do that. That's very beneficial. To me, that showed an attempt to try to inform their citizens that they need help. They want to get that help willingly from the citizens. But in that post, I had made a comment that, the days of, fire departments being able to kind of build their own fire trucks or not wear, or, stretch equipment well into periods of time where it shouldn't be in service anymore, or the gear. That really shouldn't be happening anymore. The cancer information that's come out, with firefighters getting cancer, getting exposed to harmful chemicals and stuff in the fire service, and even the products that we use causing us cancer. That's a problem that needs to be dealt with. Unfortunately, it costs money to get the right equipment and gear and things to deal with that. And then we can't dictate if we need an $800,000 fire truck, and that's what we need. And that's to the point where we could explain to you all day long and show you every piece of information that we have to buy that truck. We do not have a choice. That sucks, because that truck was $400,000 4 years ago. But because of inflation and the economics in the world today, that unfortunately gets passed down to the taxpayer. And the other thing I would say about that real quick is it's important to remember that in a lot of these rural fire departments, the firefighters typically live in the district that they're protecting. So they're paying taxes to the department. So, right now I'm paying taxes to my own salary. So it's just a round circle. So it's different from, or I guess to say that a lot of these rural fire departments, the firefighters that are asking for this funding or asking for this equipment, they genuinely care. That's why they're there, and they understand the burden because they pay the taxes. They see their own tax information. They wish they didn't have to, but some things are unavoidable. We bought $1.6 million worth of fire trucks. It was just 2 of them. And we bought those at the end of 22. So, and they're going to be here in September.
Were they new?
They're brand new.
Oh, wow.
And for reference, neither Sherman or Reno had a new fire engine. Sherman had one in 12 years. Reno hadn't had one in 10. It was partially because we were covering a larger area that we needed some newer trucks and different trucks. It was also one of them is a pumper tanker that carries a lot of water. So goes back to the ISO deal. But that's just inflation. We can't, we needed those trucks and we can't do anything about the cost, unfortunately. We spent, it's like 300 pages of spec pages that I've read through to try to find places to cut corners, and that's just as low as we could get them, unfortunately. But when we can buy used trucks, we do. So we bought a used ladder from Bonner, and that probably saved that truck brand new would have cost about 1.8 million. We bought it for under 100,000.
Even though it was used, I assume there's some standard to make sure.
Yeah, so it was still an in-service. Yeah, it was still an in-service truck for the department we bought it from. That plays a part. Obviously, we want to make sure that it's still functional and that we're not buying something we're going to dump a bunch of money into. But because it was still in service, they were still using it. It's in very good condition. There's almost no miles on it. And ladders, you can kind of get away with stretching those a little bit longer than you can with some of the fire engines. So we felt it was a good opportunity for us to get to that truck right now.
Just a question on the financing, like when you need a new truck and you have to increase the mill levy, the fire district itself has what, a board or something that can increase the mill levy?
Yeah, so, Reno Township had 3 board members and Sherman Township had 3. They came together. And so, technically, those people are serving on both their respective township boards and the fire district board. And then we added a city council member from the city of Leavenworth, to make a 7-person board. They're ultimately responsible for saying, yes, we need to raise the mill, or we're going to raise the mill or reduce the mill, whatever their action may be. I know just before we consolidated in 2022, Reno Township had taken the revenue neutral route, so it technically lowered their mill. So both boards in the past have been pretty cognizant about not raising the mill rate unless they absolutely have to. Sherman's mill rate going up was, I believe, the first time it had happened in a couple of years. So, they had tried to not have that problem and where they raised the mill.
The folks on that board are elected through their
Yeah.
township or city position.
Yeah, so that's how so like I said, they're on both. They're on their respective township boards, so they're elected people that get on to serve as the fire district board.
So they vote funding for the actual equipment, but for the water infrastructure, that's all, at least in this area, the rural water.
Yeah, so the rural water districts are their own governing bodies and stuff. So the fire board governs just the fire department. And whatever the needs of the fire department are, it's who, our chief reports to them. They select the chief. And because of the unique deal with my position, I report directly to them as well.
But
So-
then the approval for, building, new homes that would require more, water infrastructure, more equipment on your part, that's the county commission, basically.
Yeah, so the county commission sets the guidelines for whatever they're gonna allow, which right now, they seem to be making smaller and smaller pieces of land that they're gonna let people build on, so, they kind of regulate. It starts with the county commission, if they dictate that we're gonna allow, houses to be built on 1 acre or 2.5 acre lots, and that's gonna create more density in the area, which is gonna put a burden on the water district, and then we have to buy trucks or add staffing to offset the burden that's caused there. So that's really where this all starts and where the snowball starts. So, and I think that is something that gets lost when those discussions happen at the commissioner level is,
Right.
I understand that those people have a tremendous amount of stuff that they deal with and that, and they have a responsibility to the citizens and I know that they're all aware of that. But when right now, it kind of feels like we're trying to just magically make all this growth appear right now. It probably should be happening over a course of 10 or 20 years.
Last question in this series. Those 3 entities, the actual firefighters and then the water districts and then planning and zoning and county commission. All that. Is there a formal framework where you all get around the table periodically and say, this is what we can do, or this is what we need if you're gonna do this, so there's sort of integration, or is that just kind of?
Yeah, we don't talk to the water boards as much as we probably wish we did. And that's something that probably needs to change moving forward. As far as the county commission goes, and I should clarify this, so each township decided that they were going to join together to make a fire district, but they're still individual townships. And they handle the cemeteries and stuff. So when that was gonna happen, it has to be blessed by the county commission. So theoretically speaking, or technically speaking, we are a county entity. And the county commission elected to pass the government of that off to the combined township boards that made the fire board. Which is different than a township. So we're kind of our own, we're off on the pie chart, we are on the org chart. So we're off to the side.
Although I think, like, I live in the wild north, and I think the eastern, it's the township and the fire district, the joint boundaries are almost.
Yeah, so the townships provided fire protection and they took care of whatever else they were doing, which in this county, I believe is just cemeteries mostly. So Sherman Township provided the fire protection. They were responsible to provide the fire protection. That's why we're the Sherman Township Fire Department. And they did the cemeteries, and it was the same with Reno. So like in your area, that's why it's different as a township. The boundaries are the same. That's how they get their funding. Is that those townships are required to provide that fire protection. As a fire district, we get our funding jointly from the taxes, the fire protection taxes in Reno and Sherman townships, which they created a new tax line that's just fire district two, but that's where the money comes from, is those two townships, the population there. And the city of Leavenworth.
Yeah, so our mill levy is based upon what you just said, because I was trying to sort out in my mind, who is who approves your budget and how that gets translated into the mill levy? And it's, if I live in your fire district, that's how, or down at the township level?
Yes.
How is that?
So, prior to the consolidation, the Sherman mill rate, was I think a 4.7, and the Reno mill rate was maybe a 5.2. Give me all the numbers, but, so instead of us having a 9 mill rate, those mills went away and we created a new mill rate for our mill rate, which I think is 5.7 is what our district mill rate is. So if you were in Sherman Township, your taxes went up 1 mil, pretty much. If you were in Reno Township, your taxes went up 0.5 mil. So there was a mill increase with us being a fire district, but we were covering a larger area.
Yeah.
And the intent is that we would not raise the mill again for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So I've had people ask me like, where are you guys getting all this money and how you doing all this? We really didn't gain a lot more money. When it come down to dollars and cents, if you just put those two together, that's about where it would have been. We're just able to do more creative things with our money because it's one pot of money.
Right.
So to your point, when those 2 mill rates went away, those 2 townships elected to still have small mill rates to handle their cemeteries. Very, very small, sub 0.5 point. We are now our own taxing entity.
Yeah, so you are taxing subdivision, as they
Yeah,
say.
and then our governing body will submit a budget, or they'll approve a budget with the county every year, and then that sets the mill rate. So there's a couple things. There's the revenue neutral tax that the state imposed, and that was kind of deceiving because the state's the only one that doesn't follow.
Right, and actually, I researched the revenue neutral, and the law says it's, you don't have to do that, you just have to have a set of public meetings, but everyone takes it, oh, you need revenue.
Yeah.
But that, it's like, if you had a business, your operating budget in 2023 is X amount, and it has to stay that way forever. It's really deceiving.
And the revenue neutral for the fire service particularly was really bad because we can't dictate, it's not like we're a business that can go out and buy a product from anybody. We can only buy certain products through certain vendors because they have to be certified. And it has to be that specific product. Well, only 4 people in the nation may make that particular product.
Right.
So if they raise their prices 30%, we still have to buy it from them. We don't have a choices to say that we can't. So the revenue neutral thing really, I think a lot of entities did it right away. And then they realized the second time around, like that really handcuffed us,
Right.
put us in a bad spot.
Yeah, the huge
So-
assumption with revenue neutral is that inflation does not affect fire departments, doesn't affect anybody.
No, in fact,
Yeah,
it does.
damn right it affects. Yeah.
So our goal is to not raise our mill rate. Our goal is to try to just grow with the ad valorem increase as high as rooftops come into our jurisdiction. That's the money that we want to try to use moving forward.
Last one, so does the Board of County Commissioners approve the budget or your budget, or do
So-
they have any say in that at all?
Basically it's not necessarily the county commission, but the county in itself, they go through and they, go through the appraiser's office or however they figure the math, is that there's gonna be, your mill rate is equal to this dollar figure. So, and then if you don't do anything, if you don't choose to go revenue neutral, you can keep the same mill rate year after year after year.
Right.
But the dollar figure per mill rate changes as you get more rooftops.
Yep.
That's the ad valorem piece, and that's what we're trying to go off of, is just that. So we don't, they give us all that information and say, this is how many mills is gonna equal this amount of money. And then our board will approve that mill rate and the budget that we as a fire department put up to them and say, this is how much money we need.
So the board makes.
Yeah, and then the board says, all right, this is good, and they ratify that budget, so.
Richard, I think if I could just, they are, I mean, in rough analogy, almost like the school. They run their own financial
Yeah,
thing. I'm just telling me if that's incorrect.
well, we try to be nice with them, but.
Oh, you get a lot, that's a lot fewer mills.
Yes,
When are the Fire District 2 board meetings and where are they held?
so there's one happening right now, it's, the first Monday of every month, and it's at our station number 1, which is 100 Main Street. And the, Sherman Township meeting happens 30 minutes prior, and then the Reno Township meeting is the second Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
We get, stranger in on that too? You want someone you're meeting in?
So our department meeting is, the second Thursday of each month at 7 PM at our station. And sometimes I'll tell you, sometimes it doesn't start at 7, because we do truck checks and we do all these other things. And sometimes it runs over a little bit, but if we have people showing up, we'll make sure we start the meeting and we're all together, and the township board meets the third Thursday of each month at our department at 7 PM. So their next meeting is the 16th of this month, and then I think I checked to see.
The 20th of some,
June.
20th of June.
I should know this, High Prairie Township, where do they fall under?
Right now, their fire protection is through District 1.
Yeah.
District 1.
Yeah, until I think January 1st of next year,
And then
and then they might be something different.
it.
I've heard a lot of different things about that. I'm not gonna speak to it. I don't know enough of it,
No, thanks,
but,
good to know.
yes.
And you mentioned grass fires, so how does a citizen get a burn permit?
So, currently, the burn permits are run through the Leavenworth County Sheriff. So you can call the dispatch non-emergency number and get one over the phone. We prefer you use the website because we have a map that we can look at, that shows us, where the burn permits are when they're active and everything. So that helps us a bunch. If you're gonna night burn, a lot of departments make it to where that burn permit shuts off at sunset. You have to call the fire chief and get permission from him to burn at night. So that's been a problem. That, a lot of people, when people move into the county, they have no clue how that works, and there's really no easy way for them to find that information.
And so if you use the website, is the approval automatic or is there a delay or?
I believe the intention was for the approval to be automatic. I've heard people not get approval, but when we look on our end, we can see it in there. I've heard people get, there's been long delays on that. We're not personally responsible for that website. EOC runs that, emergency management, in coordination with the sheriff, so.
Where is that website?
LDsheriff.org.
Yep.
Yeah, LDsheriff.org.
Right on the far right tab, it says burn permits.
I mean, it seems to be automatic. My thing is, I can give you guys, because you can fill it out like the day you're doing it, seems like. So
It
it'll
is.
give you guys a lot of lead time, but I mean, that doesn't matter.
You know, you it used to be that each individual township could shut the burn permits off on their own, and now they all shut off at once as a county. Probably some pros and cons of that.
I haven't done it in a couple of years.
But, if you like, some of the cities do their own burn permits, and we've looked into doing our own burn permits in the future. Through a program that we're gonna be releasing called Community Connect, where if you're a citizen or a resident, you can, it's a completely secure server. We don't have contact with it. It goes through this company we use. And, if you have animals, if you have hazardous materials on your property, if you have a gate code you want us to know, if you have somebody that has ADA requirements in your house, you can put that all in there. Make the profile. It's the same profile you would use to make a burn permit through us. And then, the only time we ever see it is if you call 911. If there's a call at your house, it's the only time it pops up, and then we'll have all the information there so that we're more apt to help you once we arrive. And so we've been working pretty hard on that. It was more labor intensive than we originally thought. So some of the district stuff took away from that, but the hope is to get it going in the next month or two. Now that we've kind of slowed down a little bit.
It's good to know that you guys see it. I didn't know who some did. I just thought maybe sheriff department.
Yeah,
And it's good to know that you guys actually see it.
part of the reason we want to do our own thing is because we can get it right through our apps. Like, we use mobile dispatching through our phones. That's how we get a lot of calls nowadays. There's still have pagers and stuff, but, when we get a call to an area, if they have a burn permit active, it'll tell us right then and there without us having to go to a separate web page on our phone to log into a map to find the burn permit.
So, I have a question. Where do you get the burn permits?
Yeah, so, Leavenworth, sheriff.org on their website, you can do it there, or you can call the sheriff's non-emergency number and get one over the phone. Yeah, you can do it all on the website. It takes like, I think, 5 minutes.
We need to wrap it.
So I'm curious, in addition, obviously, it'd be great to have more people volunteer to actually be fire personnel or maybe go the medical route. Are there volunteer needs that could be, that aren't, directly related to being a fire
Yeah.
personnel?
my-
Like, what would that be? Like, how would people who maybe don't think they want to hop on a fire truck and run out to a house fire?
So,
How can people help
yeah,
in other ways?
my opinion, and I know a lot of other departments there feel the same way, that there's a place for everybody on a volunteer fire department. It does not matter. If they don't want to go inside and fight fires, that's totally fine. Because we need people to help us outside of the scenes. We need people to help us back at the stations. We appreciate help when we do fundraisers or community outreach stuff. Anybody is welcome to be a volunteer, and if they don't want to, it's not for everybody, right? It's not for everybody to be the paramedic or the firefighter that goes and fights fires and stuff. We have people that just drive trucks for us, which is a big need. And we have people that just help us on an administrative level and help us with some of that stuff. So, I know that every department in this county needs help.
One big thing, which could be a big help, is if we're working a structure fire, we're gonna be out there 6 to 8 hours roughly. Thing you have to keep in mind is once you're done, all that hose has to go back to the station, be cleaned, hung up, dried. The trucks have to be reloaded with hose. All your air bottles have to be refilled. Your trucks have to have water, they have to have fuel. All your small hand tools that are gas powered have to be refilled. And then the cancer, you gotta start looking at your gear, and I don't know how many extractors you guys have.
We have one, but it was expensive enough.
We have one, it's $15,000 for ours.
An extract, what is? that?
It's to help get rid of the carcinogens and stuff on the bunker gear. And I think we can put one in there maybe.
You have to wash your innards separate from your outer. But you have two sets, one goes inside the other.
But, so there's that, and there's, washing the truck. You get a grass fire, you get mud all over it, and like I said, 6 to 8 hours,
When you're out that long, there's also food.
you have food and water, bring that to the scene, that help. You're tired after 6 or 8 hours of steady doing something, and then you come back to the station, and then you got, 3 more hours of putting your truck back together, because you may get another call. Right then.
And unfortunately, on a lot of these big scenes, we get, we have 3 departments there. We might have 10 people. So we only have 10 people out of 3 departments that do that whole deal for 6 or 8 hours. To compare that, in KCK or Johnson County, there would be 30 people there. And that would be what they would deem as sufficient workforce. So,
One thing you might mention, that I haven't heard yet, is the involvement of the county and Kansas task force.
yeah, so the county initially, a couple years ago, had a wildland task force that, went out and traveled across the state and went to other communities in need with grass fires and such. Eventually it kind of dwindled down to where only a couple departments wanted to be doing it. Because it is a burden. Particularly on volunteer departments, because they ask for you during the week, you gotta go for 2 or 3 days. Well, if you have a full-time job, that's pretty much impossible. So, but a couple of departments are now doing it in conjunction with, Johnson County and Douglas County. You guys are doing that with now. So, it's a great benefit. We did it for a while and then, realized that, we kind of needed to focus back on us for a little while. We fight enough of them anyway. We don't need to go looking for them. So, yeah, there's there's a tremendous amount of things that have to be done in the fire department, and anybody is welcome to come and help us. We appreciate help in any form. They don't have to be the person that, you don't even have to rattle a big red truck if you don't want to. If you just want to help out around for events and stuff, we love that as well. And the communities need more volunteers. I mean, every department in this county is down a lot on volunteers. And the one thing I would say about that real quick is if you run out of all volunteers, the alternative is you have to raise your taxes to pay people to be there. And it is much cheaper for it to be a volunteer department. Or you won't have a fire department anymore, and you'll have to contract fire protection from a fire department that can help you, which is gonna be expensive as well. But I left these handouts here, some highlights of what we are and how to volunteer. We do try to make sure that we get a lot of requests from a lot of people around the county and outside of our county, so we try to tell them to volunteer in their own township first. If they want to do it that way, but we take people from anywhere we can get them. And I wanted to thank you guys for inviting me to this. It's been great. It's been fun to talk about. It's nice to see the community interest in it. And I hope that continues to grow and that this was informative for you guys.
Great.